I'm so excited today for this project. It's such a fun project and it really gets me ready for spring, and I hope you guys are excited about spring. I'm sure you are wherever you are at in the world. Well, we have these cherry blossom trees that bloom not too far down the road from us, so I just thought I would make a floral card with this. So let's get going. As you can see, this is one I did earlier and I think it turned out really cute. So as you can see, I've taped down my paper that I'm going to be using, the watercolor paper, and this is Arches 100% cotton and 140-pound weight. And what we're going to do is, and washi tape, as you can see. So what I'm going to do to start out with is I've drawn a really light, faint, I don't know if you can tell, tree trunk, and you can do this if you want and draw branches. I just would rather put the leaf shapes in and then add the branches as I go. So what I'm going to do is wet my brush, and I have a fairly large brush, a size 8 Windsor & Newton Cotman round, and I'm going to start off with this. I'm going to put some green leaf shapes in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and just a really light wash I'm going to use. Nothing too strong because I don't want this color to overpower everything, and I'm just kind of making little circles. Also, you could wet your paper and add some of these green hues. That's kind of fun as well. It just depends on what your paper is and what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just add some random, like I said, green shapes, and then I'll make sure this tape, I'm having a hard time with this tape. I don't know if I like it. Then I'm going to come back. I'm going to let this dry thoroughly, and then I'm going to come back and show you how we layer in the pink. Now the green paint has dried, and you can speed that up with a hair dryer. Just be careful that you don't spread the water around too much if that's not what you want, or you can just let it dry on its own. So now what I'm going to do is, that was sap green that I used earlier, just a light wash of sap green. And now I'm going to, I took a mix of alizarin crimson hue, and then I'm going to mix that with some Chinese white. I do have white in my palette. Not everybody has that in their watercolor palette, but I wanted to tone down that crimson a little bit. So I mixed that together and just add a little bit more white there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just adding, like I said, lots of water to my brush, and I'm just going to randomly put in some blobs, and I'm going to overlap the green. I don't have a problem with overlapping because I want to leave some blank spaces for the tree branches. I don't want to just like fill it up completely. And fix this tape. That's a Scotch washi tape, and I'm not 100% happy with it, so I'm gonna have to try something else because it's wanting to come up on me, which is not a good thing when you're doing watercolors. So anyway, just add that crimson in there, and like I said, in different spots, and just very random, however it just feels natural for you. But I do like to add it all the way to the top of the card, and I just think that kind of makes it look really good. And you can add it, make it light some places, dark in other spots. I'm just going to go back and attach some of these little shapes together, okay? And then I'm going to just go ahead and finish this up, and then we'll go on to our next part. While this is still kind of wet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of a darker pigment of that color, same color. It's the alizarin crimson hue, and this is in my Winsor & Newton Cotman colors. If you're interested in those in this palette, you can use any pinkish color that you want, or take a reddish hue and then mix it with a white or tone it down. You can just really experiment with your color palette. But I'm just going to go back in, and with more paint or on my brush, I'm going to just go in while this paper is still wet, and I'm going to just add some more just random dots, are kind of like adding shadows, light and dark, to these little pink spots that are already in here, and then maybe just adding a few more, but just to, yeah, make it interesting. I like the contrast of the different colors and the light and the dark with it. And remember, if you don't like something or it didn't turn out the way that you liked, you can always go back in and take a Kleenex and you can kind of pull the color out. Well, you can pull the color out. So we're going to go ahead and do that just to show you. We're just going to pull a little bit out, maybe here, add a little bit of texture. And this is also a really great way, I think, to add some random texture to your leaf shapes and your patterns. And you can go back in again, of course, and add more layers. So go ahead and do these steps until you get your leaves and your flowers and your blossoms to the place where you like them, and where they're fairly bright. So I'm going to go ahead and continue working with this, kind of messing around with it till I get to where I like it, and then I will show you the next step after this. Now that we've added the different layers of color, and again, you can keep messing with this and going back and adding whatever levels of color that you like, but I kind of like it where it's at, and we're going to be adding another step, a final step to it. I'm going to go ahead and do the trunk. So I mixed together some burnt umber, some ultramarine in my palette, my Windsor and Newton Cotman colors, and then I also added a little bit of the pink, the alizarin crimson hue to it, to make it just a little bit more interesting in the color. I think you can see it's right over here, just to kind of tie all the colors in together. So that's really what I did. I'm going to take it back out of frame so I can go ahead and do this. So I'm just going to basically take as light of a wash as I can and just put in, I switched also to a number 6, my Princeton Snapbrush, and I'm just going in with this straight line and just randomly putting in this tree trunk. And then I'm going to fill in the bottom, make that nice and full and dark because that's going to have the most shadow on it. And then I'm just going to kind of leave that. I may take a little bit out because it went in not super dark, but dark enough. Because I really want, when it comes to especially a tree branch or tree trunk, I guess, I'd really like to have texture to it. So I'm just going to pull some of the color out, but I'm going to add more layers in. I like doing that anyway, so it's up to you. You don't have to do that. You could just add the trunk and be done. So what I'm going to also do now is I'm going to make these branch shapes coming up to these little areas of leaves. So that's really the big thing that you're going to do next. And what's important about that as well is you're going to want to, as you do that, you're going to want to fill in these empty spaces here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I will just put this on a speed play so you can just finish watching me fill it in, but that's basically all. We are almost done with this. I'm going to just make sure my tape is down, my washi tape or whatever tape you use. And now we're going to add the fun little splashes of color because that's going to make it look like the petals are being blown in the wind. And I love this effect. So I'm going to take that alizarin pink that I made up here, and having a damp or wet brush, Doesn't have to be super wet, but just make sure it's damp enough. I'm just gonna load my brush up with this paint, and I'm going to now, and this is gonna be really messy, so make sure you protect anything that you don't want to get messed up. And I'm just going to add these splashes of color all to my painting. And I like the really, really large dots, but you can do, you just have to kind of mess around with it. I think the closer you get to it, the smaller the, and I had a lot of water on mine as well, but I like them. I think that really adds to the whole painting. Get a little beat going on here. Anyway, yeah, you're gonna do this until you get it to the way that you like it. Hopefully you can see this really well. And I'm gonna let this dry. I don't know if you can hear me, it's so loud. I'm gonna let this dry and then show you the very last step. We're just gonna add a little bit of color to the bottom and then see what it looks like when it is all dry. Our last step is going to be, this is just a fun little addition, and we're gonna just add a little bit of grass. We're going back to that same, this is just pure sap green that I'm using. Hopefully it's showing up as green on the camera. I know it doesn't always show up super well, but sap green is a warmer spring-like color. And I did, just so you know, I did go back and add a little bit more to the original painting because I like the green in there. So just taking the tip of your brush, I've got a Princeton Snapbrush number 6. I'm just using the very tip of my brush, starting at the bottom. I'm just snapping basically the brush up and just to make these little grass shapes. And I'm just gonna kind of pull it over all the way down just a little bit, just like the color at the end. It's gonna be nice when we remove it and see the border of the card to see these little grass shapes. And then what I'm going to do, I'm gonna do a little bit more of that. And we can, like I said, add some different layers. And I also want to add a little bit of pink because, you know, there's going to be blossoms that have fallen on the ground already. And so I want to add a few of those shapes in there. And you probably do want to wait till this is a little bit more dry. And I'm not going to get into the grass too much because it's going to blend in with the green. But I'm just going to add a little bit of pink in there as well, just to show the petals that have fallen on the ground, because it does make a really lovely carpet. It's so pretty in the spring to see all of that. So that's it. I'm going to let this dry. And again, you can go back and touch up anything that you, at this point, that you just don't like, or you want to, maybe you want to add some more texture or layers to your tree trunk. This is the time to do it. But next step, I'm going to uncover it or take the tape off, and we'll see what it looks like. It's time for the unveiling. My favorite part, we're going to take the tape off and see how this turned out. I love this part. It makes everything worthwhile when you're doing a piece, is to see how this turns out, and voila. And again, you can use these as a floral card. You can use these in your bullet journal, art journal, sketch pad, just practice. I don't know, you can frame it if you want, but it's such a fun little piece for spring, and I hope you really enjoyed it. I really liked making them. And again, here's this one, and then here's another one that I made previously, which is a little bit on a bigger card. But the great thing about these is they turn out differently every single time, and that's what makes them very unique, just like you. So I hope you really like this, and if you do, please like, subscribe, comment, and just remember that you are amazing and creative, and I will see you next time for our next art project. See you later. Bye.